They always say a single question can change everything, but I never believed it until the night she stood in my doorway, eyes tired, voice shaking, asking, "Is there space left in your bed?" If I told you I almost said no, you'd think I'm heartless. But the truth is, people like me don't fear loneliness, we fear losing someone all over again. I didn't know her question would collide with everything I'd been running from, or that my answer would become the one thing that saved us both. That night was one of those nights when silence felt louder than any argument, the kind where the world outside seemed far away and irrelevant. I had been pacing around my room, trying to convince myself that solitude was still a safer choice than letting someone close again. Then she knocked, 3 soft taps, like she was afraid even the sound of her presence might break something fragile. When I opened the door, she stood there in an oversized sweater, hugging her arms like she was holding herself together. Her voice cracked as she asked, "Is there space left in your bed?" For a moment, everything inside me collided, my memories, my fears, my unfinished chapters. I wanted to protect her, but I also wanted to protect myself. That's when the words slipped out before I could filter them. "What if you said you wanted to stay forever?" She blinked, startled, and I saw something flicker inside her, hope, maybe, or disbelief. I stepped aside and let her in. And just like that, my quiet world began to shift. Before that night, she and I were something between strangers and friends, 2 people who kept brushing against each other's lives like we were orbiting the same sun but too nervous to collide. She moved in 3 weeks earlier, renting the small room across the hall after leaving a relationship that had drained the glow from her. I knew pieces of her story, not the whole thing, just fragments she dropped unintentionally, the phone calls she wouldn't answer, the way she flinched at sudden sounds, the tears she tried to hide when she thought no one was looking. I wasn't the kind of man people confided in. Too guarded, too quiet, too good at pretending everything was fine even when it wasn't. She once told me I made loneliness look effortless, but that night, loneliness didn't look like effort. It looked like her trembling hands. It looked like my hesitation. It looked like 2 broken people trying to build peace from their cracks. I told her she could stay as long as she needed, and she gave me a small smile like she wasn't sure if she deserved a place to rest. When she settled under the blanket, she took the outer edge of the bed as if she was afraid to take too much space. I lay beside her, listening to her uneven breaths. "You don't have to be scared here," I whispered. "I'm not scared," she murmured, "just not used to feeling safe." I wanted to ask who made her feel unsafe, but I didn't. Instead, I offered my silence, not the empty kind, but the steady kind that holds someone up. Days passed, and the bed that once felt too big for one person suddenly became too small for the distance she tried to keep. She'd wake up early and brew coffee for both of us. She'd sit on the living room floor sketching little drawings in a notebook. Slowly, she began to laugh again, the sort of soft, unsteady laugh that sounded like someone rediscovering the ability to breathe, but healing is rarely a straight path. One night, I heard raised voices downstairs. Her ex had shown up, demanding answers. She didn't know him. I got between them, my hands shaking as I told him to leave. I wasn't strong or brave, but I knew the look in her eyes, panic, old wounds reopening. After he left, she collapsed into me, crying into my chest. I held her because there was nothing else to give. That night, she asked again if she could sleep beside me. This time, I didn't hesitate. This time, she curled closer. And this time, I understood something frightening and beautiful. Letting someone in isn't weakness. It's permission to finally start healing. She fell asleep first. I stayed awake, watching the way her breath steadied against my shoulder, and I found myself whispering words I hoped she'd never hear. "I don't want you to stay temporarily. I want you to stay as long as your heart needs." But feelings are terrifying when you've lost before. So I kept mine buried right until everything changed. It was a Sunday morning, sunlight spilling through the curtains like it was trying to paint the room with hope. I woke up to find her staring at me, not fearful, not hesitant, just present. Really present. There was something in her eyes that made my heart stumble. "What if I told you I wanted to stay longer than forever?" she asked softly. The question hit me deeper than I expected. Not because of the words, but because of who she was now. She wasn't the trembling, uncertain girl who knocked on my door weeks ago. She was rebuilding herself. Stronger. Brighter, but with her growth came a fear I didn't expect. What if now that she was healing, she realized she didn't need me anymore? "You don't owe me anything," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I know," she replied. "But I want to choose you. Not out of fear. Not out of loneliness. Out of love." The word love didn't sound like fireworks. It sounded like a home being rebuilt plank by plank. It sounded like two people choosing to stay after life had given them 100 reasons to run. Still, doubt crept in. What if I'm not enough? I whispered. She touched my cheek, gentle but certain. You don't have to be enough. You just have to be you. And that's who I want to stay with. Her honesty shattered something inside me, the part that believed good things weren't meant for me. I pulled her close, holding her like a promise, but stories aren't made of just soft moments. A few days later, she got an offer to move to another city for work, a fresh start, good pay, a chance to rebuild her life even more. I told her to take it. I pretended I wasn't breaking inside. She looked at me for a long time before saying, "You keep sending me toward doors because you're afraid I'll choose you. Stop pushing me away. Let me stay." "But what if you regret staying with someone like me?" I asked. She shook her head. "Maybe stop waiting for me to leave and start believing I'm here because I want to be." And that was the moment everything shifted. I held her hands, and for the first time, I didn't hide anything. "Then stay," I whispered. "Stay not because you need a bed to sleep in, but because you want a life next to mine." Her smile trembled, but it was real. "Forever, then?" "Forever," I said, finally letting myself believe it. The world didn't magically fix itself. We still had fears, insecurities, memories that tried to pull us backward. But now, we faced them together. Some nights she still asked, half asleep, "Is there space left in your bed?" And every time I answered, "There will always be space. And there will always be space in my life for you." Because home isn't a place. Home is someone who stays. Someone who chooses you not out of desperation, but out of devotion. And sometimes, home begins with the simplest, softest questions. Is there space left in your bed? What if you said you wanted to stay forever? And the moment you finally say yes.gg.